Welcome to this Friday's live force drawing session on our YouTube channel here. We have a really fun subject for you today. I love talking about metaphors, as all of you know. I think it's just a great way to learn. It's how I learned. I kept always searching for comparisons to help me understand how to draw better, and I think we're all here to try to learn how to draw better, and hopefully I wouldn't say as speedily as possible, but hopefully as efficiently as possible. And I think metaphors do a great job of that. So today we're going to talk about water, right? Water is a really amazing metaphor because it's this liquid mass that moves, right, because of its liquidity. And that really helps with the concept of flow, right, through the body, right? So let's, before we get into it, let's say hello to our instructors. How you doing, Swenley?
Good, ready to draw some splashing water today.
Yeah, exactly. Lots of splashing water. How about you, Mrityunjay?
Yeah, I really understand the power of water, just like because I just started learning swimming and it made me sick. So
That's right. Yes, Mrityunjay's learning how to swim. Go Mrityunjay. You get in there with your skinny, bony little body, and try to feel the thickness of the water and how are you going to balance yourself? How do you stay afloat? It's kind of amazing, actually, right? Get some oxygen. I say always just fill your lungs with air and hold your breath. Keep yourself above water level. Yeah.
As I said, I'm going to be a better artist after learning swimming because now I'll be knowing its power.
Yeah, no, it's really, not to geek out on it, but I think that's really true. There's a couple of things that this triggers for me. First of all, I consider myself a pretty good swimmer. I learned actually at Coney Island when I was a kid. My grandmother taught me how to swim. So I was used to like the rough waves and everything. And I learned in sort of turbulent water. And swimming's kind of cool because, you're in something thicker than air and your body responds differently to that environment, to that space, and I think there's something to that. It's another physical experience that potentially can help you understand your body and how things move and flow, and bringing that over to your drawing. It also reminds me of, I don't know how many of you have seen this, but one of the Superman films, I forget the actor's name now, but it was between Christopher Reeve and Henry Cavill. There was a film in there with this younger guy who played Superman, and they had some behind. What's his name?
Brandon Routh, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. I think
Superman
right.
Returns, right?
Yeah, that's where Spacey was playing Lex Luthor, right? Kevin Spacey. And they had a behind the scenes of teaching him how to move when he's flying. And guess what? They did it in water, right? So he learned in the water, like how to move his arms and his hands to like turn his body, right? And they brought that over to the flying, right? Which I thought was so damn clever, so smart to make it feel like he's actually controlling direction, because in water you could really feel that, you get a sense of that. It's hard, and the air is so thin, and yet air is thick too. If you think about like when we have like a space shuttle or something like that re-enter Earth's orbit, or you see it in the films, right? You see all this friction and it causes all this heat and fire on the front of something. Air is thick, but think about how fast you have to go to create that amount of heat, right? With water, its thickness is so much greater, that it's not like glue, right? It's not that viscous, but thick enough, to be extremely different. I didn't have time to look this online, but I guarantee we could find like a viscosity level of it's like, water is 300 times thicker than air or something like that, right? So anyway, going back to the Superman thing, it was really cool to watch him, like, let's say, dive into the water and then use his hands and his shoulders and his body and his arms to like rotate himself in certain directions, right? So that thickness, and you could see the flow in it, like just how romantic that was, how poetic it was, like a ballerina, right? And that, again, and that he did this great job of bringing it over to flying, which I thought, again, was just really clever on the the side of like the stuntmen and the choreographers, whoever helped that actor, you know, figure out that space. Really, really smart. So let's get into it, right? We're going to talk about water today. I love lots of different metaphors, like I said earlier, but I think water is a great one. I think we all experience water in some way, shape, and form. If it's taking a shower, a bath, washing your hands in the sink, having a bucket of water that you dump on something or someone, right? Some of the points I want to share are right here in the thumbnail. Water by itself, not so great. If we were in outer space and we had a bucket full of water, it would turn into little globulates, right? And that would be it. It would just disperse, right? So not so special, but water with gravity, totally different thing, right? Now we have a very interesting situation is how the water, how does it stay together? How does it break apart, right? Gravity pulling down on this liquid mass is quite interesting. It also always makes me think of like quicksilver, which is thicker than water, but kind of another interesting, you know, metaphor to contemplate. Yeah, Don Craig's surrounded by surrounded by water. Son of a gun, living in Hawaii. You want to, you know, as we're moving around water with water today, you want to be aware of areas where there is pooling, right? Like you'll notice in this drawing, this is right out of a mentorship meeting, by the way. This idea of water coming down the back and like pooling in the upper rib cage, pooling in the face. I love that, right? I love the feeling of that. I'm trying to put that into my drawing. I have to have that idea. I have to bring my own life experience to this concept of the pooling of the water and the weight of it, and that my line is going to actually represent what that looks like based on what it feels like, right? So I'm representing, I'm creating a visual representation of a physical experience, right? You know, and here at this last note, yeah, in vertical areas, you know, the water is going to be falling, right? Which starts to generate much higher speeds, right? This is like all of a sudden, you know, you're going through rapids and you hit a waterfall, that water is going to hit its maximum velocity. If it has enough vertical distance to do so, it'll hit its maximum velocity relative to gravity, right? So things can get pretty darn fast in the human body. What I want you all to leave today with is this understanding. The three of us are going to draw for you today. We're going to demo quite a bit and hopefully inspire you to bring this metaphor to your own work. You know, our job every week, I think, is just trying to unlock something in your brain that's going to make you go, I didn't think of it that way. That makes sense to me. Let me go and try it, right? And run over to your drawing board and say, you know, let me go and test this out myself, right? So on a personal level, I love coming in with personal stories. I love water flumes. It's like one of my favorite rides in every park. And I've been to a lot of amusement parks in my life. I grew up in the New York area, so not too far away, it was probably a couple hours away, was Hershey Park, Pennsylvania. So I used to love going there as a kid. The air actually smells like Hershey chocolate, believe it or not, which was amazing. I don't know if as an adult I would like it, but as a kid, it was amazing, right? And they had this water flume ride that I would say still to this day is probably my favorite. And I would say maybe number two behind that is the one at Disneyland. That's pretty darn good also. But I used to love this water flume ride. And at the very tail end of the water flume ride was this steep drop. And they put this like little fake bridge, this bump in here, which I used to love because it literally would make the thing you were sitting in, the capsule you're sitting in, it would make it pop, right? You'd get some air. And I used to love that. So I used to go on this thing and just like get off, get back online, get off, get back online and try to hit through this like 3 to 5 times. Just so enjoyed it. I grabbed this photo because, you know, look at that speed, right? Look at the speed of this, you know, ride going over the hump of this and then sweeping its way down. Look at the water shooting. I want you to think about this today while we're drawing, because this is what we are going to try to imply through us talking and drawing for you guys is this, right? The speed that's going on here. How does water react to gravity? A lot slower over here, right? Little vertical drops, but lots of splashing because the water's like trying to level off. It's never really having the opportunity to do so, right? And gravity is like pulling it down. It's hitting the next step and splashing, hitting next step and splashing, right? So that leads us to this, right? I did this again for another student in a mentorship meeting. You know, another way of thinking about water is imagine like kayaking through the body, right? And that there's, you know, wider rivers and creeks and streams, you know, the water channels get smaller and smaller as you go through the body. And that you're in on that ride, you know, if it's a water flume, or here in this case, it's a kayak, right? The kayak here is going along the back, and it's got to go through this drop over the shoulders and down, right? And here would be a lot of splashing, and here there'd be a lot of pooling, right? There'd be weight down in the head. And then, you know, we make our way out. But you know what? You also can go down this way, right? There's another stream that breaks off here, and you go past the rocks, you hit the elbow, and boom, we're going to drop down fast with gravity, right? Down the edge of the arm, smash into the bottom rocks over there where the wrist is and the hand, right? And then flow out the fingers. And then there's another breakaway over here, right? Through the shoulder and the arm, and then sweeping out around here, and then finally out these fingers. Look at the ride in the leg, man, would that have been interesting, right? Let me grab my pen. If I add to this story, all right, we would like, here, let me grab this other brush. And we would come up over here like this, right? And then drop down. Right, I want to drop down, and then I'm speeding along pretty fast. How do I know I'm moving fast? Because the curves are not that strong. This one's pretty strong over here at her, you know, at her rear end and at the pelvis. That's a pretty strong change in direction, right? Pretty strong change. We're also at the top of the mountain up here, right? The top of the hill. So gravity's pulling down her leg, right? So I'm going to go in here, and then I'm going to flow and fall down into this bottom, and then sweep up, smash into the top of the shin. And look at this beautiful last moment that she illustrates for us here, that she created, that sweeps us down and into the ground there, into her foot, right? So awesome, right? So all this water is flowing around, smashing into these boundaries. Sometimes it feel like it's on the outside of the body, and we'll talk about that as we draw. Sometimes on the inside. Is it the most ultimate perfect metaphor? No, I don't think there's any like perfect metaphor. I think they all have a little bit of their challenges, but we keep presenting them to you because I'm hoping that something will stick. You know, and you're like, you know what? I get this water thing. I get the idea of the thickness and the weight of it. When I was doing research for today, I came across a YouTube video of a bunch of firemen holding a fire hose, and they were shooting it at the back of a car and moving the car, right, with the fire hose, with the water from the fire hose, right? So, you know, just to give you a sense of the force of water, right, how strong water can be. Here it's concentrated under pressure, going out of the diameter of the fire hose, right, and being strong enough to push a car, right? Think about that. That's pretty strong to push a car, right? And to get like the momentum of that car going, right? So, you know, no joke, right? Water's strong. Water and gravity, pretty strong. Like I said, liquid weight, right? We're dealing with liquid weight here, and we want to try to bring that to our work. Let's see, before I get started, any questions? Starting a drawing is like jumping off a waterfall. Yes. Maybe how the mirror turned into liquid, like in the Matrix. Yeah, that's the, like a goopier water. That's almost more like what was the word I used before? Not liquid metal. It's called liquid metal. I just blanked on it.
Then in the Terminator
like
movie.
mercury. Yeah, like Terminator, right? All those are like mercury, right? That's always like this visual effects treatment of water, like mercury. That actually, the visual effects from Terminator, just to give you a little film history real quick, that led to The Abyss, the film where they then turned water into like a liquid creature, almost like what they did in Moana, right? Same idea that they had. Moana was, you know, 20 years ago in a live action film called The Abyss, which if you haven't seen, I recommend to see. It was pretty good. Where the water feels like it's sentient, right? It's alive and it's thinking, right? Let's see, great pose. Waves are full of force while they are forming and crashing. I can watch them for hours, yes, and be entertained. Yeah, most definitely. You know, I think a lot about natural disasters when I am drawing because of their power, their forceful power. So a tidal wave, right, is a massive amount of force, right? Tornadoes, massive amount of rotational force or torque, right? Like rotational force. And I like bringing those ideas to my drawing. Yes, Ahmed, The Abyss. The Abyss is the name of the movie. So let's do it, right? I brought some photographs in and the other guys have some reference today too. We thought we would draw for you guys, get a sense of how this all works for us. I'm going to bounce around some brushes here today. I'm going to draw with something called the gesture pencil, and I'm going to work with this animator's notes for sort of like iconography and all. So, you know, like I picture here, I picked this pose specifically. It's strategic in a sense because he has a high point and it's not the shoulders or the head. The high point here is the back, right? So immediately I just think, oh, what if, you know, there was a bucket here, right? And this bucket is filled with water, right? Like so. And it's going to pour down into his body. Now, normally, if he was just an open vessel, what would happen? This would like go through his body and it would sit here and then kind of make its way down. But I don't want to do that. This is where, like I said, we want to play a little bit with like when we're on the surface and when we go in and out of the body to make this work, because we're talking about force, right? So I'm going to say this hits the surface of his body, you know, and it's going to flow this way and this way, right? It's like, is one way faster than the other? Yeah, I would say so. Look at the left-hand side. Let's call this left and right, or L and R. This is, if I put a straight line through here, like so, you know, look at the triangle that's created here. So that gives us a level of steepness versus this triangle and its level of steepness. At the beginning, they're almost the same. But this one gets steeper and steeper. The angle, the decline, right, gets greater and greater, which means water is going to start picking up some real speed there as it goes towards his pelvis, right? And then from there, I want to sweep down there and come down into this shoulder, right? So here I am, I'm going over the side. Now I feel like I'm kind of on the inside, you know, I'm on the inside of his body. I want to hit that shoulder. Let me make this a little bigger. There. I want to hit that shoulder and feel this water, you know, splash, right? Here, let's add a little fun rendering and stuff to this, right? So this is like, whoosh, right? Splashing over here, okay? And then I'm going to continue my way down, right? It goes behind his knee. It's going to hit the back of this arm. It's going to hit that elbow pretty hard back there, right? Because I could see the angle change in the forearm there, right? So it's going to hit there. So a lot of splashing going on here as well, right? Right here in the elbow. We've got a lot of, you know, very strong hit because there's an angle change. It's not smooth. It's not a smooth change, pretty aggressive change, right? And then we sweep down here. I also picked this image because to go with our metaphor today, does it not feel like, you know, he's holding a pool of water here, right? It's so awesome, right? Like here he is. You'd see his reflection, right? Grab his face in here. You know, here's his eyes. Here's his nose, right? So looking into his hands, right? So we go sweeping down through here, and this finally would like shoot out his fingers, you know. Here I would go through, never let the body or parts of the body stop you from seeing the whole image, right? So this comes from animation, and animation, in 2D animation, they always used to teach you draw through, so everything has volume and form, right? So this would come from here to here. It's going to flow across into the back of the arm, you know, sweep its way very gracefully down into the hands and then down into this pool. And when I go from his neck to his head, the water is going to go this way and land through his neck into his face, right? So here's his face and look at the angle, right? The angle's like this. So the pooling is happening here down at the chin, right? Like that's the place where, like, the place where it wants to sit, right, is this corner. It's the place that is closest to the bottom of the pool of his head, right? So right in here is a lot of pooling, right? Now we go down that other side and we start picking up some real steam. So boom, sweep around the pelvis, up over the knee, goes horizontal. So things probably would slow down a little bit there, right? Get it like roaring rapids, right? We're sweeping our way across, we're getting to the knee. We get to the knee and whoa, what happens here? Massive fall, right? Here's the waterfalls, right? Fast drop down, right? To the other side, really fast drop. I would say to me, there's like a lot of, you know, splashing that would go on over here, right? And then, you know, it's hitting into the foot. in the illustration for the thumbnail, I always think about there's almost like rings over here, this ripple effect of how much that water is really hitting the ground over there, all right? Comes down over the top of the foot, it's sitting on the bottom of the foot, and then it finally does come out of the toes and into this larger pool of water that he's standing in, right? That there's a ripple effect there too, right? So that's the main idea. Here's the other leg would be front to front. It would also get down to the foot. It's got this ripple effect. And it suddenly feels to me from an illustration standpoint, like Michael's this giant water god sitting in this giant stream. You know, we could put people here on the edges standing like, oh my God, look, there's Michael the water god, right? They're all pointing, right? So that's what, you know, this is where my head goes. I know it sounds crazy, but this is what happens for me. That's how my drawings and why my drawings look the way they do is because I'm picturing this total narrative going on. I'm picturing and experiencing the ideas of metaphors from the real world, from the physical world, and trying to bring this in, right? To understand how things are flowing and moving around the body, okay? So you'll notice now when I draw this, it's not going to be very different from what I just did, okay? So let's see, let's get rid of that overlay. Let's go over here, create a new layer, go to black and go to my gesture brush here, FF. And if I draw this in black, I'm basically going to do what I just did in blue, right? I'm like, well, that's really pushing down in there. You know, I'm going to come over here to the shoulder. I notice it's a little higher, right? A little higher up. Here's this, a little higher up, right? And I put all this applied force in here because that's the pooling, right? You see, there's this weight, pressure over here and weight over here, pushing, right? Pushing down, right? I get the center line of his rib cage in there, right? I get that shoulder starting to, you know, I'm prepping, right? I'm preparing for the fall. I would also, one thing we missed with this water piece is because I came in pouring from the top, but there's a lot of pressure right there, right? So if like I could take the water and start here and shoot it upward, right there, I would have a lot of pressure as well, right? Pushing up on the upper back, right? And that's sort of the imperfection of this water thing, because really that's a very strong force. This pose, it feels to me like everything's hanging from that moment, right? Water going down this way, water going around this way, but we have that stress right there. That's the piece of his spine that's holding up all this weight, right? So from here, you know, I flow over those rapids we talked about, right? I want to get to his knee, right? It's up and over. Notice the S I'm doing there because by me doing this, I'm creating form. So sneaky, isn't it? Look at that. Boom, right? All of a sudden there's a tube in there, right? So I come in there like that, sweep in here, you know, go down that drop we talked about. We've got his ankle in here, right? I've got his foot in here, like so. I come down that shoulder. I'm going to come, you know, in behind the leg into that sharp elbow that we can't see, sweep down to his hands, right? Slight angle change, the pool of water is sitting here. I love this part. I love coming over the spine, down his neck. I look at like where his chest is and his neck and his jaw. It's pretty close. So his chin is like about there. And I want that weight. I want line weight there because it's pooling right there, right? There's the heaviness of that, right? His head's like about here, right? Say something like that. And now, you know, I'm going to keep gluing this together. I want more water going on here. I want that flow to happen, right? It's more like that, right? And then the other side is doing the same thing. It's going from here to about here and then down, you know, other hands like that, right? Just beautiful fluid water flowing, creating this nice little pool in his hands, right? So nice. And then that other leg, which I could barely see, I'm just going to get it here through the arms. And then his hand, his foot's about right there, right? It's like right about in there, right? So there's my like quick sketch of this, right? My gesture drawing, my force gesture drawing of how this works, right? And let's come back to the layers here. If I add my blue layer to this, you know, I basically did what we talked about, right? Not green, blue. You know, it's like pooling, right? There's pooling happening here, and there's pooling happening here, right? Right here, right? And all that water is like pouring over his back. Water pours over the back at the upper back 3 ways. It goes out the neck and head, and then both shoulders, right? So 3 different ways out of the top, right? And here it's flowing down, it's hitting into the elbow, sweeping down into this, you know, into his hands, creating this pool. Same thing on the other side, shoulder, down the arm, elbow. And we sweep down that more aggressive side that way, right? Water wants to go that way, just wants to continue and kind of like fall down on the ground and land over here, but it's not, right? Boom, sharp corner in the water flume ride. Up and over, right? Up and over and around, into the knee, down around the side, fast drop, right? Into the ankle, over the top of the foot, side of the foot there, the weight of it. And we finally touch down, right? And have our nice little ripple effect there in the river, okay? So any questions on what I did? I don't think so. Let's see. I'm an animator. I learned so much from you. Thanks. You are so welcome. You're very welcome, Conde Pablo. Excellent explanation, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So it looks like pretty straightforward. No particular questions. Let's do one more, and I'm going to hand it over after that to Swenley. Yes. New apparel, everyone. I forget what this is called again. There's a name for tops that have no straps. I don't know my female fashion. God, oh, tube top, a tube top. Yes, that's a very narrow tube top that I created there. A tube top, I'm so proud of myself. I actually remembered. So let's draw this one with water. Right? Which is really the same thing as the black line. I'm like, wow, that's really splashing, right? Like lots of hit over here. And all that's going to come down and want to pool in the pelvis, right? Pool out into the pelvis here, right? A lot of hitting here, boom. It's like, right? A lot of splashing going on there. Shooting down, hitting into the knee, right? So we're moving fast. It's on a diagonal, but very vertical diagonal, really fast ride down to the foot. Right, this one's got a stronger change in it, right? And then it sweeps back, right? So a little slower than the other leg. This leg is fast, right? Fast, fun ride down. How much fun that would be, right? Here we sweep up. So here's like the shape of the torso, right? Now I'm going to do something in a moment after I draw this, but let me just finish this and then I want to show you something. So here we got the shoulder, we got the arm in here, lots of perspective and foreshortening, right, going on. Look at those crazy fingers she's got going on there, right? All kinds of crazy swirly stuff happening, very exciting. All right, we got her neck, all right, going like this. We got her head sitting in here. We got the height of this other arm. Okay. So the thing I wanted to share with you, she's this model, man, she's so good with her hands. She's a dancer. Like I love the last tweak in the wrists, right? Fantastic. So what I want to share with you is normally I try to start with the torso and I start students that way. We all do. But man, what a fun ride this would be. Here, let's go to this other brush again. What a fun ride this would be to say, where I really want to get on this ride, I think would be probably right here. I want to sit in the flume, like right there. I don't know about this. That feels like a really dangerous way to get on because it's an immediate drop. That's a whole other ride. But I've been on those kind too, right? They start you with the drop, right? But I think I'd like to start here because how exciting, right? You start with this fast turn and then, you know, you're going pretty fast. We're pretty vertical. Remember, gravity, G for gravity, is perfectly vertical. Let's make this perfect vertical, like so. Right, perfectly vertical, right? So here, man, we pick up speed really fast and hit into the shoulder. And then this is a fast ride down. This is not a very long ride, right? Really quick. There's so much verticality that the water is getting pulled down at a very high rate of speed, right? A lot of speed. Speed's a very important part of force, right? Force and speed go hand in hand. You want to learn when you're drawing what parts of the body are slower and what are faster, right? So this is all pretty fast. Then we go through this crazy sweep, right? Now, where do I go from there? I have a couple of options, actually. One is I can go up and around the lower back and try to come down this other leg and sweep my way out to the ground. So that would be one, right here. The other one is a little less obvious, right? Because I go through this giant explosion here into this hip, right? Boom, right there. And then we would kind of stall out. It's like hitting the top of a roller coaster and stall out. And then I would like turn the ride around and head back down this leg. And then boom, 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 really fast down, hit the side of the foot, right? You can see that very straight, strong angle. It's almost perfectly vertical, actually, like so, right? So again, here I am, right? The flume. Notice the scale, right? We talked about scale in the past. I am little on this little cart, right? The model's huge. She's a ride in an amusement park, right? And I'm having the opportunity to flow through her body. So keep those things in mind, right? Let's see, before I switch over, Bruce Lee said it best. Yeah, be like water. Ooh, that's a good one, Redacted. That is an excellent, excellent, excellent entry to the chat. Yes, be like water. Man, fantastic. A+ on that comment. Tube top, maybe, yes. Can you elaborate more on the model's left arm in perspective? I still get lost with forces in perspective sometimes. Yes. So, you know, when I look at her, see if I can I'll grab the blue here. I would say don't start at the hand, start at the arm, right? We're drawing this way. So force goes from the shoulder through the arm, elbow side, right? And you just got to draw through, right? We're going to go through it so you can see it's hitting here. Okay, it comes up, it hits the bone, sure, it hits all of this, but its final like destination, its direction is that way. And then from there, so we're drawing through and around, right, because of the foreshortening. Then I would follow that out, her finger, basically, right? You can see just how strongly she's trying to sweep her fingers up. And then when I do that, let me grab another color here. You know, we're going in space, right? So this is like a tube, right? So that's going on for this finger, they're all having a direction like this. And that's coming from the top of the wrist, which came from the arm, right? So arm, top of wrist, side of hand right here. And then that explodes over the top of the hand in each one of her fingers. And her thumb, look at the beautiful rhythm in her thumb right there, right? 1, 2. It's so beautifully done. Yeah, look at her face there. She looks at such peace and focus. So nice, right? Yeah, so pleasant. All right, any other questions? Hey, which brushes are you using? That is a great question. Mritunjay and I at the moment, and Swenley actually is now jumping in. We're playing with some of the brushes that Mritunjay's been playing with and designing. So hopefully we'll be releasing them soon. Yeah, we've been tinkering with these for the last couple of months. So when we're ready, they'll come out to the public definitely before the end of summer, hopefully by the end of July. Very helpful reminder, drawing figures. Gravity is important. Yes, thank you, Kari. Random question, but how did you find out about Steve Moore? I noticed a while ago you did like some of his, I don't remember. Yeah, email me. And I don't even recognize the name off the top of my head right now. I have to see how I found out about that person. Yeah, the two brushes mainly that I'm using today are this, what we're calling like an animator's notes, you know, so it's just got good, like, it's good for inking and writing, you know, it's got good thick to thin on it. And then there's the awesome gesture pencil, right? This one's it's got good grayscale on it, and it's got a little bit of a rough edge, and it's pretty good from its thick to thins, you know, with line weight. It feels a little artistic, which I think is kind of nice, you know, a little bit of organicness that we can actually squeeze into the digital world, right? So, okay, with that, I'm going to hand it off. All right, all yours, Swenley.
Yes, thank you, Mike. That was awesome.
Thank you.
So let's go over here. So based on Mike's great introduction, I just want to talk a bit more about the concept of speeds. You know, that's something I've been talking a lot about during mentorship. You know, like in the body, there are like fast and slower moments. And I think the water analogy is a good way to like develop a sensitivity to that and being more aware of it. So if we start here, actually, I need a video here. If we start here with this model, I picked this pose because, well, first of all, you know, let's see, does this show up? Let's remember the force of gravity, you know, which is pulling down. Like, this is the main concept that we have to keep in mind. So be aware of the angle, you know, like look at how this her body is angled all the way from the top of her torso into the knee. So let's say you put a ball here, this is going to roll down pretty fast because of the angle, versus if the angle was more like this would be a slower roll. Well, the same would happen with water and with force, which is what we want to get to. Get rid of this. I want the gravity arrow to remain there. So I picked this pose because of the angle of the torso. So imagine that we start here, and actually let me zoom in a little bit so we focus on the torso specifically. So imagine if we start here, and personally I noticed that when I draw the torso, I usually start here at the top, and with the water analogy, I realized that actually that's like a natural response, because I start here, let's say we pour water right here on the torso. So, here there is support for it, but now as we go to the back, gravity start doing its work, and it's going to fall down this ramp of the back, and again, because of the angle, this starts slow, but here this speeds up, this speeds up the water because of this ramp that we have back here. This is going to direct the water towards the abdomen and the pelvis, and it's all going to like splash right here. You can see that it's a little bit of the oblique and like the corner of the pelvis bone there, create an apex. So this very fast moment, and here is going to splash. Then it's going to go here, and it's going to like accumulate right here at the bottom of the torso mass. So here there would be a lot of added weights. Again, water is accumulating, gravity wants to pull it down. So this would be heavy. Imagine this being like some kind of balloon, and a lot of water is accumulating here. It's splashing, it's like twirling around. So that's the idea. That's what I think about when I'm drawing the forces of the torso. We start slow, we have this like steep angle, so we go fast, water is smashing in here, creating this apex, and then it's accumulating here. So here's where I would like darken the line to show the weight. As I draw this pose later on, you'll see that become clearer. So from here, the water is going to go flow down into the legs, so we can say, well, once it reaches here, it reaches like it's like maximum height here in the pelvis form, and then it wants to go down the ramp of the leg. So again, look at the angle. This is a very fast moment. This happens fast. It's going to splash here. So this would be a very fast flow through the leg. And same here, we could say, well, it's twirling its way around here, and now it's going to find its way to the front of the thigh. And notice that once we reach the knee, notice that this like river bank that we have here, this is directing the water towards the back of the calf. So this coming here, then is starting to find its way around to the other side. And notice this nice flow from the back of the calf into the arc of the foot and into the toes. And if you zoom in and go into the details, it would go from here over into each toe, and here we would have like this this ripple effect that Mike talked about. Same would happen here as well. And if we go the other way here, we would go into the arms. Actually, let me go on another layer just for clarity's sake. So we start with the water here. We went down the back. Now we can go here into the deltoid. And this is getting us into the arm again. This would be, the water would be falling down because of gravity. So this is very fast moments all the way into that hand. So let's go and let's draw that. Let's draw the forces now with this analogy in mind. Switch to this. Let's see. So again, I'm starting the torso here. Now here's where we started with the water. And then this is falling down. Now the force is sliding down that ramp created by the back, and it's being directed into that apex of the like the oblique, and a little bit of the pelvis bone there. Now, so this is smashing right here. Now the amount of force coming down here is like pushing this out, and here would be the accumulation of the water. So there would be a lot of weights down here. Now, and then we can close the like the torso mass. Now, since we are drawing the human figure. But again, the idea of the water and how it creates the rhythm, that's like the underlying thought when I'm drawing this. You know, and from here we can go into that leg. And again, when I'm drawing the line, I'm aware of the speeds with which force is like going down, hitting that inner knee, it's going back. You know, and here, if you know the templates, this would be inner ankle and over into that outside foot. Let's move this a little bit over here so we can get the other leg in. Also, again, this leg is being trusted with a certain sense of speed and energy. Now we have the knee. The knee is like directing force to the back of that calf, and we have this nice rhythm between the back and of the calf and the arc of the foot, you know, into the toes. Again, this is a contact point with the ground plane, so keeping in mind the like ripple effect of the water, you want to like hit these contact points with a darker line to show a sense of weight. You know, otherwise you can easily feel like the figure weighs like a feather. So let's go back here. So we start here again. From here we flow into that deltoid, down back the arm. Now again, this is a very fast moment from the arm into the hands. You know, so again, keep in mind gravity. Keep in mind like the analogy of water, and use that idea to help you be sensitive to the speeds of force at any given point in the body. You know, again, you have fast moments and you have slower moments. You know, like the head and neck, for example. You know, for me, that would be a slightly slower moment in this case, because things are not really falling down. Like we have force coming up over the back here, and then we have it hitting the directional force of the neck. You know, and the head is like a rigid bone structure. You know, so you have the form of the head sitting on top. You know, so this kind of like going opposite to the direction of gravity. So for me, this is a slower moment. It's rhythmic, but not as fast as what's happening in the torso, for example. Let's see, let's do just one other demo before I hand it over to Mitunjay. Any questions in the chat, Mike?
No, nothing major that I've seen. Don Craig's the watercolor, the water roller coaster, skating race car all have the G-force factor that you can actually feel as you experience it. Bring that into drawing is Mike's gift to us all. I'm using a mental tip nib for the Apple Pencil. Yeah, no, everything's good.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
So this pose, I like it. In fact, I bought the model pack because of this pose. You know, when I saw like the rhythm between the back and the neck and head, I was like, I want to draw this. You know, which is great. You want poses that excite you to draw. So if we use the water analogy and we start, let's say we start here at the back, and it's similar to the pose that Mike drew earlier. You know, if we start here, water is going to pour down and it's going to fall down into the face, essentially. Now, so I see this rhythm between the back and the face. So we have this nice fluidity, and notice that water would be accumulating here. Now again, gravity is pulling it down, so this would be quite heavy, which physics-wise, it corresponds to what happens in reality, because the head wants to fall down and the neck has to hold it up in place. So there would be a lot of tension in that neck, to perform the job of holding this weight in place. Now, and here we go down the back. Again, this is a slow moment. As soon as we start going down that angle, water starts accelerating down, and then it splashes right here at the bottom of the pelvis. So here we have like additional weights. All this water is accumulating in there. And from here, we can also go into that leg. So water would flow down, then it would hit that inner knee, and then it would go down, inside ankle, outside foot, and here it would leave out. It would have that ripple effect. Same here. Notice this is going down very fast. This is a very fast flow of water all the way into that foot. And for me, this is a bit slower because once we start going up against gravity here, this isn't as fast. For me, like the main acceleration occurs when we go from the back into the face, and from the back into the pelvis, and down the legs, of course. All right, I'm going to hand it over to Mithunjay, so he has enough time to demo as well.
Thank you, Swenley.
Yeah, you're welcome.
We should all have brought a towel with us for today's.
Clean up the water.
That would have been funny. Could have my wife like splash me with a bucket of water in the middle of the session.
All right. So I think Mike and Sonli covered most of the concepts, right? Now, there's nothing much to it, the beauty of this concept is its simplicity, right? You just visualize the gravity in a way. And I always teach this, my job is to kickstart off the people with the basics, mostly I'm teaching like the new students and everyone, and they have this tendency to always draw the body, right? And it's completely fine, we're like, what we're learning in force is not out there, So, it's basically, so what I always say is like, you always need to draw the energies, okay? Don't even think about body roll, especially when in the basics, okay? Let's try to think about more that in the later stage of curriculum, okay? And this is what the visualization is for. The energy that the body is possessing, through muscles and everything, that is, we are understanding it with the power of water here. So just straight off, let's start with a simple pose here. Feel like water, okay? Just I think one of you said in the chat that was really great again, Bruce Lee's thought, be water, be like water. So be like water when you're in the drawing, adding to Bruce Lee's thought here. Be like water, and that kind of leads me to all sort of different metaphors even. So for example, I love dancing myself, and just like Mike was drawing the hands, drawing the hands of the model, and he was mentioning she was a dancer, right? So
Yes.
these kind of like things helps you understand the fluidity of water, okay? Like, for example, I'm learning swimming right now. I really understand the power of it, like how it's kind of difficult to cut the water and just like go, like continue the way. And let's say about dancing, allowing me to understand the fluidity of it, like the torque and everything. And these are all forces, okay? These are like physics-based forces, the torque, the bend, right? Like all these things. So, you want to feel like water, you just need a free mindset about it, okay? Don't, you literally have to be water, which means, see, water is not staying in a stream, water is not staying in a tube, right? We're not saying, oh, it's a tube. We're just like pouring water, okay? Which means it's gonna go all the way, going all the way, you know, just splashing here and there. It's not worrying about, oh, I have to stay within the line, okay? That's not how the water is thinking. So you gotta be like this, okay? When I'm thinking about this pose, the reason why I choose this pose is like, oh, water can actually enter from here into the body right here, okay? So how's this like entering into the body and it's like going over here, going to the abdomen, okay? Just like what Swen and Mike was demoing. But you know, what I really want you to understand is you have to be free, okay? Be water, you know, you have to be free of that. Which means, yeah, I'm gonna come. I'm not gonna say that these lines are the contours of the hand. Okay, I'm not gonna say, oh, it's like this is the elbow, this will become the elbow, this would be you know, the upper arm, okay, or something like that. I'm not staying within the limits of it. I'm just exploring, you know, just like water. So what I'm gonna do is look at the lines, you know, that I'm drawing. I'm not constrained. I'm not constrained within any you know, body or any like physical thing in there. Okay, just understanding the flow of it. So I'm going in there. That's the reason my drawing looks the way they look. You know, my people always ask a lot, oh, they're so energetic. Why they're so energetic? Because I am free. I'm drawing them from this metaphor of water. Okay, I always have to resize. Okay, so see, you're like coming, you're going in there. Don't worry about your lines. Okay, you can always make them clean afterwards. It's gonna go like this. Okay, just like now the same stuff. Okay, this water is coming in there. It's kind of collecting in there for sure. It's always like splashing. So the rest of the water just like goes into the leg. You can see that the leg is super, yeah, it's not like completely 90 degrees, it's on an angle, but that leg is like holding up a lot of weight. Now, because we are using this metaphor for water, your line weight will gonna be increased because you're trying to understand that power of the leg there, okay? So all of a sudden, my line weight increase here, okay? It's like, oh, look at that angle in there. I always have to resize. Okay, so right there, look at that power there. And then I'm gonna come out from here. See, this is helping me in two ways. First of all, I am getting the path, okay, the path of the force. The second thing, it's allowing me to glue all these parts together, because one of the mistakes that I've seen people doing is drawing like this. Now, see, there's no connection to it. I can just take this part. I can say, oh, what is this, right? I can remove that and suddenly just become all disconnected. So you need to like understand this applied force in them, okay? Like really what the water is representing is how the applied force is acting on these directional forces. So look at the stretch in there. It's going to be fast. It's like, yeah, it's a little bit slanted. It's not going to be as fast as this leg right here, but still going to be like very fluid. Okay. Whoosh, 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 you know, like there. And there we go, right into the feet. Yeah, so something like this, right? You want to like bring this power of your power of water inside of your drawing. You have to feel like it, okay? All right, let's take the next one. Let's take this one. That last one I attempted the previous week. Now, again, look at that figure. I can literally say, oh, there's the water can enter from here, from this leg right there. So I can take this angle off. I can say, oh, there's the angle of the leg. I can just skate around it afterwards. But at least I'm trying to like make the water enter into the body, you know, from that kind of way. It's going to be very pressurized. Okay, you can see like how the pose is kind of it's very extreme though, right? He might just be able to pull that off for like mere seconds. Okay, so very aggressive pose. He's putting a lot of efforts into that. So you have to be that quick, okay? You cannot just like, oh, you know, wait for hours and hours, you know, to do that one. So the water that's entering into this pose is going to be aggressive. It's going to be super coming with a super lot of pressure, okay? So let's get this done. So it's kind of flowing in there. It's aggressively sweeping up like this way. Aggressively sweeping up this way and just kind of whoosh, like down in there. Try to put you guys right up in here. Yeah, right there. Like a lot of water just like coming in there, like splashing in there. So this is gonna be the splash, okay? And then we have this. Put it back again here. So it's gonna be a seed torso. Now here I'm starting to think a little bit about like the torso template or whatever. But again, I cannot be like losing myself again until I really get that. Okay. So I see some form in here. I can skate around this like really quickly. Okay.
I
Like
can
all
really imagine pouring water into the foot of this pose and watching it make its way all the way down into that torso and splash across that screen left side. I don't recommend starting at the foot, but I want you to, it's the highest peak in this pose, right? And it's interesting to like pour water into this long skinny tunnel called the leg and have it jostle around in there and then come out and open into the cavern of the torso and hit the left wall of the space, right? And then make its way over to the body like what Matunja is doing right now. Pretty exciting.
yeah, just so interesting to think like if you're starting from torso just like I did, it's gonna be very difficult for me to get the water back up in the tunnel, right? If
Right.
yeah, it's gonna be thinking about if the water is pouring down from here, oh, it's gonna be something like that, and then the water is just gonna flow from here. Yeah, it's not out of the body, but because we're just thinking about it, we can think that creatively. It's gonna be like that kind of thing, and it's going to be very tough. Water has to be super pressurized in order to like get into the leg, which is up on an angle, like a slanted angle. It's always better to just like start from there. Although again, just hierarchically speaking, you always want to start with the torso most of the time. But that's why I took an angle, okay, at the beginning. If you just observe, I took an angle, so it's like, oh, water is coming down from me, so I was like observing it. So in a way, I kind of started there, okay, not at the actual torso. But yeah, that is also a good thing to try, by the way, like going against the gravity. Anyway, so here's the two main supports right there. And the wire is going to be like this, okay? Now it's kind of like coming from here, kind of splashing here. It's going into the arm, right? It's going to be very quick, like fall down to the wrist there, okay? A lot of splashing right there. And you see like the line weight. Look at the line weight in here that I'm presenting, because he's literally on his hands. It's supported by his whole body. He's literally by his hands. So a lot of line weight is going to be there. All right, so we don't have time for the one more demo, but I'm gonna show you a really interesting thing that I did today. So allow me to allow myself to do that. There it is. I choose the exact same pose that Mike showed you in the beginning about that boat thing, right? If I'm not mistaken.
The kayak.
So yeah, the kayak thing. And there we go. It's kind of a cool little funny animation that I did. So you see like what's happening? I'm gonna show you frame by frame. So see what's happening. The water is splashing here. And so here I actually pulled down the water from here because that's like the highest peak. Again, it's like a mountain, It's like coming down from there. Okay, so what's happening next? See how the water is like, I cannot like put it frame by frame, but okay, so it's kind of like splitting up here. Okay, so it's splitting up here. It's like it see it like splashes up in there, it splits there, and see like it's attacking, right? It's actually what do you say? It's stumble right into the scapula right here, and then from here it splits down. Okay, like it splits down to go into the arm, to go into the other arm, and to also go into the neck. Okay, so from there, see how it's like moving. Okay, And now there's actually three paths, you know, that the water is moving, because the hip is the highest peak, and then it's like coming down to both the arms and the neck and the other leg as well. Okay, that will also go at the other leg, which I didn't do. But yeah, just to like keep it simple. So just watch the animation again. And here it's kind of collecting. I kind of like this idea in the end where the water is just collected. It really shows the weight. Okay, like look at the head in there, look at the shoulder in there. The water is collected there. Literally shows you what really happens, the aftermath of it. Okay, so you really want to like put your line weight in there to show this weight. Okay, like hanging in there. And yeah, see, so you're coming up with this drawing that's functional. Okay, you're using a creative metaphor, which is describing a line quality. Okay, because now you're just like water, you're flowy. You're not worrying about like literally drawing the body, but you're thinking about these creative metaphors, and it's functional. Obviously, I think I counted that, and this drawing actually works now, just like real physics based. All
I
right.
love how it pulls into the shoulder and the foot too. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's kind of like collecting in those places.
Yeah, it's fun. And that's, one of the reasons why you go with heavier line, right? One of the questions that we get asked a lot is like, where do I put darker line and why? It's because of these forces. It's because of gravity, right? And here you can see the darker lines are where there's a lot of pooling going on,
Yeah. So we'll conclude the stream. You might wanna, if there's any question or.
No, it's all good. It's all covered. Thank you, Mrityunjay. That was awesome.
Yeah. All right, guys, we're gonna conclude the stream.
Yeah, so thank you everyone for coming today. As a reminder, hit the subscribe button if you like the topics that we're covering here and the information we're sharing with you. And if you hit the bell, that will allow you to get reminders, right? It'll tell you when I post for the event, and it'll forewarn you as to when the event is coming, right? When we are showing up on Fridays. Otherwise, have an awesome weekend. Experience water. That's your homework, right? Go take a shower, as one of the other guys said. And we will see you guys next Friday with hopefully another interesting subject for you guys to learn from. Thanks again, Swami and Mrityunjay. Have a great weekend. We'll all see you next week. Take care and goodbye.
See you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.